Jake, sorry, I was privileged to be at your training session, seeing your body language, unfortunately, when Mr. Ankom left the field. So, was there any plans of utilizing him tomorrow in this match against Zebre?
There was, and then he just said he's like feeling a bit tight, his back's a bit sore. So I just said, look, we're not going to take a risk. So yeah, he was initially, I was looking at getting him in, but I can't afford a risk, so just pulled him out last minute.
So my last question, based on what happened last week between your match and what happened in Durban, how does that change your plans anyhow ahead of tomorrow's match against Zebre?
No, it doesn't change at all. I mean, Zebre beat Munster, they beat Ulster, they nearly beat the Sharks last week. So we were always going to make sure that we put a team on the field that can get a result. I mean, obviously when you beat Leinster like we did last week, there's a lot more different vibe at training, different vibe at the club. But I've said it to you many times, guys, that one of the things we're going to do this year is use the whole squad, rotate the squad. You see this week Wilco's on the bench, Ruan Nortje is coming back, Bilo gets a start, and making that change, as he just spoke about, is Cameron starting would have been perfect, but you know, we got to be confident enough that if we change a guy and Bilo comes in, that we're still going to be competitive enough to get a result. So there are a couple of changes, as you see, but the next month, if everything goes according to the way it could go, we're going to play BRuan away, either the Lions or Edinburgh, then we're going to play Munster, then we're going to play Glasgow, and then we're going to play Montpellier, Pau, Bath in 5 consecutive weekends. So, and that's including this week's Zebre, so that's 6 consecutive weeks. So that's why you see the team. I know you're going to ask me what were the thoughts. It's not just this weekend. I mean, obviously we're putting a team on this weekend that needs to play and get a result. But it's also about what's going to happen the next 6 weeks if we, and it could happen. I mean, I'm sure you guys wouldn't have known this because it's not your club. But we could go BRuan back to Loftus to play the Lions, back to Munster to play Munster, then Glasgow. And if you consider Munster Glasgow as a back-to-back opponent, after having to come back to South Africa and back to Munster is not the ideal. But you know that is what could be ahead of us if things end up going like that.
Jake, wat is die verskil met Zebre hierdie jaar? Ons het Saterdag gesien met die Sharks. Hulle moes eintlik daai game, hulle is ongelukkig verloor met die Sharks. Wat maak hulle hierdie jaar beter?
Ja, ek dink hulle is baie meer bevestig. Baie spelers wat langer in hulle stelsel is, hulle nuwe afrotters. Ek dink die ander ding is hulle het vertroue gekry om groot manne te klop. Hulle het Munster vroeg in die seisoen geklop en Ulster geklop. Jy kan maar dink, jy weet. En die ander ding is wat ook eenvoudig is, hulle groep is nie baie, ek praat deur 6 nasies nie baie geimpak nie. Jy weet, al die ander spanne soos Benetton, ek dink hulle het 19 spelers in Italiaanse squad. So, en ek weet nie, ek sê dit, ek weet nie wat so spelers Zebre verloor het nie, maar ek kan maar dink, is nie soveel as al die ander spanne wat 6 nasies speel. So, nuwe coaches, bietjie meer vertroue dat hulle groot name gewen het. Ja, en ek dink soos enige iets, hulle het nou, jy weet, hulle het gevoel hoe voel het om te wen, en nou is het maar moeilik om teen hulle te speel. So, en hulle is 'n span wat risiko's vat. En as jy kyk hulle styl, as jy vir my vra wat doen hulle, jy weet, hulle is nie bang om van eie halfte of kwartgebied te speel nie. So, jy weet, en as dit afkom, dan is dit maar gevaarlik. So, ek kan maar dink, jy weet, amper die Sharks gewen, as jy nou dink, die Sharks, Munster en Ulster is maar goeie wenne vir 'n klub wat almal gedink het, sal altyd die laaste klub in die toernooi wees, of laaste op die punte wat leer.
Jake, Ruan Nortje is back.
Yeah.
I saw him, a nice running off the bench this week. How's he looking?
Yeah, geez, I mean, and I always tell you guys this, but I mean, he's very, very special. Just to have him around, he's captain, you know, just the way he talks, the way he prepares, what he says in meetings, you know, taking him now on tour is also massive. We're going on a 4-week tour. It could be a 5-week tour. To have him around, you know, it just sets the tone for me as well. You know, just in terms of things he does, the things he says, you know, things that we want to put into place when we're away for 5 weeks. You know. And little things. I mean, how do you keep 32 guys, you know, motivated? How do you keep 32 guys happy? And yeah, so it's not just the rugby. I mean, it's just wonderful that he's back. And already our line-out, just the confidence he gives the throwers, the lifters. So I mean, hopefully you'll get some time off the bench this week, and it's not pre-planned. I mean, I don't like to tell you he's going to get 40 minutes or whatever. It's some time off the bench, and then next week maybe on the bench again. Because one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I've been watching with interest a lot of other sport codes, and we just got to make sure that we have our best available 23 when we get to the back end of the competition. And so if it means that you sort of have to take a couple of tough decisions now, Cameron, you're not playing today or tomorrow because I'm not sure you're ready. You know, it's not all or nothing for tomorrow. It's basically making sure that that squad's ready. So to have him now, and we'll manage him along the way now, so that by the time we get to the back end of the competition, hopefully he's playing his best rugby.
If my very amazingly scrambled notes are correct, it's a 16 bench.
Yes. Same as last week.
Yeah, but
So
it was a bit of a change for you because you normally
you know what the thinking there is, and I'll tell you, I'm not a fan of because it can come back to bite you. But the reason is that we've got so many forwards that have just come back from injuries, and I can't have the situation where I'm forced to put a guy like Ruan Nortje on after 5 minutes because there's a concussion or a serious injury, and then basically he has to play 75 minutes. So there's a little bit of thought behind the process of, last week I had Willie that could cover 10, and obviously that helped. So the decisions behind the decisions on making sure that there's certain players you don't want to risk.
One last question. The Stormers have got a typical Stormers easy running towards the end, if I can call it that.
You said that, eh?
Yeah, I said it.
Okay.
I'll repeat it. I mean, every year they get to like a position that they sort of sailing to table low.
Yeah.
But the question I'm asking is, you, the Lions and the Sharks, still have to go play in Europe.
Yeah.
And you're going to play so many games. They've got 5 games left until the end of the season, end of May.
Yes.
What a pleasure. How are you going to battle to combat that?
No, but and to be fair as well, what you haven't mentioned, which obviously I would say, is they got knocked out of Europe, so they got weekends off when we play as well, which is also.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So that's also a blessing for them because they can really put all the energy into one competition. But some would say, listen, we went on a tour early in the year, and that's also tough, which we did.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how you package it. And I suppose my answer to you is quite simple. There will be times in the season that you have to fast bake, and there are times in the season that you have to think long term of where you need to be at the back end of the competition. And you can't, if you compare with other teams, and as I said to you, then are really important that you don't forget as in your media, is we had some players away for 9 weeks over Christmas.
Yeah.
Then we've got enough. We could play 5 weeks, and that's away from home. Or the easy option is we come back to Loftus after 1 week and go back to Munster, and then we go to Glasgow, and then we go to either Bath or Montpellier or Po. Now, if you think about it, that's the one is you away for 5 weeks, and the other one is you come home for a week and you go back to Munster. Now, which one would you take? And both of them are tough. So I suppose what I'm trying to answer to you guys is that there's going to be times we've probably, and I'll say this from me, and this is me, we've probably had one of the toughest seasons from a logistical and a travel and a time away from home and giving Springboks away over the time that we were away. As I said to you, 3 weeks on tour, then Bok, then 2 weeks on tour. Probably been very unique to us. So I'm not sure how other teams, it just happens like that. Hopefully next year it can happen that we have Christmas time at home, Don't have to travel, box them, can prepare you and go there. But it is something that coaches do look at. You look at who the team plays before they play you, how many games do they play, do you catch them at the right time? You think about it, Leinster, let's use Leinster as an example. Leinster are the benchmark of where we want to be in the competition, every team. And we just happened to catch Leinster a week after Six Nations. We happened to catch them, they had to travel here. We got them, we didn't get them at home, we got them at Loftus. So there are times where you get certain things fall in your lap, and there are times that you don't get those things later on or in the season. So, but I go back to what I was saying earlier. I really think that, and this is all part of my planning, is we want to be the best we can be with the best players available in the best condition, no matter what happens in the season, to be ready when we get to knockout rugby, because then it's all or nothing.
Because Jake, you just mentioned it now, having the best players. Obviously, Arceus re-signed again with Leinster.
Yes.
Looking at the news this week from SA Rugby and the announcements of the new sponsorships, obviously the amounts are a lot higher than it was, let's say, in the past. Do you think that these sponsorships that SA Rugby is receiving and the amount of money, is that a benefit for SA Rugby to get the players back or getting players back? Like that, one of your biggest things that you want is to have our best players in South Africa. Is that being managed correctly, do you think, in your opinion?
Ronaldo, look, obviously I'm not involved in that, but I would say that it's irrelevant how much money SA Rugby have if the decision isn't for those players to come back. I don't think one is linked with the other. So I don't think that the more money we get, the more chance of getting players back. A guy like Pollard's come back, that's not a money-based thing. He wants his kid to grow up in South Africa. It suits his timing. And I said it to you, and I say it again. I'm going to keep banging the drum, guys. Leinster, we played one of the best forwards in the world against us for Leinster. Would DuPont be allowed to go and play in Japan? I mean, would they allow it? What would he go? Would French rugby allow DuPont? He's one of the best players in the world, as Arceus is a forward. And I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. You're never going to get me. But it doesn't matter. I know people out there will watch this thing and podcast and look at the things you post and say, yeah, but Jake says. But it wouldn't happen in any other sport. It's irrelevant whether how much money there is. You want to be a Springbok, you play in South Africa. We mustn't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. I'm sitting in a room that says Investec. What happens if Investec don't put money in because the best players aren't playing in these competitions? Then we're going to say, but how come? So I go back to I look at Arceus, and Arceus should be playing for South African franchise. That's how it should be. And the best players in the world should be playing for their franchises. And then we'll be competitive in everything. And then the model that works in SA Rugby is the best players available, you can pick whoever you want, whatever. It works anyway because the best players are then available at franchise level.
Yeah.
So I don't think one is linked to the other because it's not a money thing. I mean, people say it's a money thing, but something has to give. I mean, surely there's just a decision. If you want to be a Springbok, you play in South Africa because what we need is we need the 4 franchises to be strong and we need the 8 Currie Cup unions. And I say 8 because we can have 8 if we bring all those players back. The 8 Currie Cup unions will then be stronger, or the 10 Currie Cup unions will be stronger. And therefore it's a win-win for everybody. But we must be careful, and I've said it to you many times, there's going to be a time where the big sponsors are not going to put money into the local game because the best players aren't here. And it's happened in every other sport, so why would rugby be different? So Ronaldo, you got say it to you because you asked me the same questions, and I'm glad you do, because I would love Arceus to have played for us. We don't get to sign Jordy Barrett, we don't get to sign Ramos Lamani, because we don't pick foreign-based players. So if we don't pick foreign-based players, which we don't, surely then we must have the best players who are available for South Africa playing for us. Now, I just think it would make so many things so much more simple. And I want to turn it on its head. Maybe we'd get more money. Maybe we'd get more money because the sponsors would go, the best players in South Africa and available to South Africa are actually playing for the 4 franchises. Who knows? Maybe that's the thing, the trick we're missing.
Nicholas? You mentioned the upcoming away games. We've just had a string of home games, and tomorrow is the last of 5 home games. What kind of performance do you want to give your Loftus faithful?
Well, look, I want to win, and I want to keep controlling our destiny. What I mean by that is the more we win, the more chance we've got of hosting a playoff. The more chance of hosting a playoff, the more financial gain we get, and also the more we can play in front of our supporters. So we can control our own destiny still. We've got 3 home games left, and we've got 2 away games in the URC. We've toured really well in the last few years away from home. So hopefully, while we can still control our destiny, we want the supporters to have the belief that we can still be playing a final, a semi-final, or a quarter-final in Pretoria.
Jake, just looking forward to the game tomorrow. Is there a risk from a psychological perspective, having beaten Leinster last weekend?
Yes.
That, the players might think, this is in the bag, despite having seen how these guys ran?
Well, I was going to say, there probably would have been if they hadn't come so close to beating the Sharks. So in a lot of ways, that result also takes away any bit of overconfidence you think would have crept in. And as I said, I've mentioned to them what I've mentioned to you. They've beaten Munster and Ulster, and I think they beat Munster in Munster even as well. So when they might even beat Ulster in Ulster. So it's not like they only played well at home. I think some of those results were away from home. So there's no reason why, if you look at what they've done in the season and what they did last week by coming so close against the Sharks team that beat us. That overconfidence probably helped, as I said, having them see that result.
The big thing which stood out last weekend in that game against the Sharks was how well they broken play.
Yeah.
And you guys, you still have an identity as a team that's set piece dominant.
Yes.
But I think the part you guys are working the hardest on is playing off the cuff. Does that open you guys up?
No, not really, because I think it's important, and I want to quickly share with you, we have an identity of being a set-piece team. And I think we've got the top try scorer in the competition for 4 years is number 1. The second try scorer in the competition, number 2, is a Bulls player, Kanan. And I think the 4th guy is Johan Grobler. So for a team that supposedly has the set-piece perception, is far from the truth. We've scored the most points in the competition for 3 seasons, and that's not because of set piece. I remember sitting here listening to you guys say our scrum isn't good enough 3 years ago. So I don't think we're just a set piece team. I think I would be also open enough to tell you, without Kirkley, who's one of the best open field players in the world, and without Kanan, who's not available because of his injury, and without Goosen, who we know how good he is on attack. When you take those 3 guys out of our backline, it is significantly different to how we usually play. But I don't think it's a risk. Playing the way they do is fantastic. It also comes with opportunities for the defensive side. And also, if they drop the ball, it's a scrum, which again helps us. And then the last factor, which is everyone talks about, is you can't run for 80 minutes in Pretoria at Highveld. Doesn't matter how good you are. So, especially when you've come from Durban the week before. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There's so many answers I can give you. They play well, they do transition, they attack well, they open play, they're good. But it's very different when you play at Loftus, and it's very different when you play at 2:45 in the afternoon on a Saturday against a team that's got a great set piece and an attacking game. So hopefully we'll put all those pieces together tomorrow.
And speaking of difference, I'm not sure what the weather forecast is for tomorrow. Do you, if it stays like this, how would you expect it to affect the game?
Well, there'll be more scrums, and then our dominant set piece should kick in. So I don't think it's I don't think it's going to be like this. I don't know Pretoria weather as well as the locals do, but this for a lot of people that lived here a long time say this is extraordinary. We don't usually have this kind of weather in Pretoria for such long periods of time. So I would think, I listened to my manager this morning, he said, doesn't matter if it rains at 7, we play golf at 11, so who knows, maybe tomorrow it's fine.
That's quite
Okay.
No.
Please go, because I'm talking.
Jack, I would just want to get back to that Stormers question. I think I didn't phrase it correctly. There's a very good chance of the Bulls having to meet the Stormers in the knockout.
Yes.
And that's what I'm getting at. The Stormers are going to be well rested. You're going to have to play and travel up and down, and that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. It can happen, but also to be fair, the Stormers could squeeze in and play 8 and then have to play a full-strength Leinster team away. So, at this point in time, it's so difficult to work out who you could get and not get. But the one thing in there that I really take confidence out of as well, and it's a fact, is the team that's finished top hasn't won since we've been part of it, and the team that's had to tour has sometimes won. So many things can happen in those playoffs. The team that comes 8th could beat the team that's 1st, and the team that's 4th could end up losing to the team that's 5th. And that's what's been happening the last couple of years. And the reason for that is because you've got to make sure that you play your best rugby in the last part of the season.
Yeah, but your squad's going to be exhausted.
It could be, but not if I'm rotating it like I am now. Like, for argument's sake, Emmy gets a break, Zach starts. Wilco gets a break, he's on the bench. So I'm not going to put Wilco on unless not I have to until I can really spend it. And that's part of the management of what we need to be thinking about, talking now Bulls-wise, so that we do get to the end of the season fresh, but also we've got to make sure that we get enough points to get the best possible playoff run that we need to. So there's a tough balance between making sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket either.
So Jacob, ek het Afrikaans vraag, maar voor die Afrikaans vraag, can you ask you, what is the status of Ruan? Will you get out of action when you expect him to be back?
The operation went really well. I mean, the idea was always going to be like a clean out. So, and the reason, important, thanks for asking that, is I want him to be ready for the Springboks in June, July. And, one of the things that as a coach is you can say fast pace. This guy's sitting on 98 test matches. I mean, I don't want him not to have the opportunity to play test rugby now that he's so close to 100. So we've given him off to go and get ready. And in all best case scenario, let's say about 4 weeks. So at this point in time, he misses this week, he misses next week, and then the third week we play, and he should be joining us by the time we get to Munster. But again, not to play Munster, to start training with us again so that he's back in the swing of things, coming to the back end of the competition.
Hoe groot van 'n terugslag is dit nie om Cameron aankom beskikbaar te hê vir hierdie wedstryd?
Ja, dit is altyd 'n terugslag. Jy weet, as ek deur die name gaan, ons het nie Goosen, ons het nie Kane nie, ons het nie Kirkley nie. Goosen is nie beskikbaar nie. Gerard Steenekamp is nog steeds nie beskikbaar nie. Johan Grobler het 'n stamp op sy skouer gekry. So, ek dink elke span in die toernooi sal weet, daar's tye in die seisoen waar jy nie almal betrokke gaan hê nie. En ek het dan net voorheen gesê deur die media-konferensie is my plan en my denke en my beplanning en alles is dat by die einde van die seisoen moet ons seker maak ons het diepte en ons moet seker maak die beste spelers wat deur die seisoen gespeel het moet fiks wees om ons te reg wees om in die eindspelwedstryde te speel.
My laaste vraag dan, terwyl Jacob hier sit met die Bulls, die Indiese leierskap gister in Grasie wen geniet met die Italiaanse ambassadeur en Zebre se leierskap. Is daar enige planne vir Jacob dan om sagtens met Zebre te wees en die rooi kapet wil uit te rol môre hier op Logistic?
Nee, dis net hoe die bulle is. Ons is baie aangename mense en ons kyk na ons opponente en ons is nie alles wat julle dink ons is nie. Daar is eintlik baie goeie mense betrokke by die bulle en bulle ondersteuners en mense wat die bulle lief het. So ek dink dit is net weer 'n sein van ons kant om vir almal te bewys ons is nie so bad as almal dink nie.
Dankie.
Dankie.